Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello. Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. Okay. Today in this one, what I want to take a look at today. From DC Comics. World's Finest, number 222, from 1974. And this is right in the middle of the era when they presented the Super Sons, Batman Jr. and Superman Jr. So let's take a look at what is in the big book of knowledge about World's Finest. Shall we? Of course, I've talked about World's Finest twice before, I think. Once in the earlier days when they were in the Silver Age, when it was the Batman Superman team up, and once when it was before this, when it was a Superman team up book. And here we are back with Superman and Batman. World's Finest, number 222 from 1974, part of the Super Sons Saga, written by Bob Haney and drawn by Dick Dillon with inks by Vince Colletta. We seem to come across Vince Colletta an awful lot, don't we? And this story is entitled Evil in Paradise, with a cover by Nick Cardy. Great Nick Cardy. It's in, of course, World's Finest, comic book from DC Comics, which ran from 1941 to 1986. And during that time, it was mostly Batman-Superman team-up book, with a period as a Superman team-up book. And then in the mid-70s, it had the Saga of the Super Sons, featuring an alternate reality with Superman Jr. and Batman Jr. And now that's kind of come around full circle almost for DC Comics to now. Well, they're not Superman and Batman Juniors, but they do have their respective sons involved. And one thing that was kind of interesting was at this time, of course, this was in the 70s. They had the and during that period when DC was trying to do some relevant comics, like they did with Green Arrow, Green Lantern team up. And this revolved a lot around current subjects in the news and culture at that time, in the mid 70s. And dealing a lot with the generation gap, with the hippies and the like, against, and just the younger generation not getting along very well with the older generation. And of course, that younger generation was what ones that turn up were from the baby boomer generation, which now they have a whole new bunch of stuff. Okay, boomer. That kind of stuff. Okay. If I can get a hold of it. let's join Superman Jr., Batman Jr. in World's Finest. And here we go. You can see this better view of this great Nick Cardy cover. Of course, at this time, Nick Cardy was doing a lot of covers. And cover World's Finest and a bunch of others and the like. He did a lot on the Superboy title, which I think was at that time was Adventure Comics, etc. And the interior artist, Dick Dillon, we've talked about him before. He worked on, of course, World's Finest for many years, late 60s and early 70s, and also through the 70s into the early 80s, the Justice League of America title. In fact, he passed away, and if I remember correctly, it was like 1982. Could have been 83, but I think it was 1982, right in the middle of doing an issue of Justice League. It's unfortunate. He was fairly young at the time. Okay, and here is a modern-day reprint of the entire Super Son Saga, again, with the Nick Cardy cover. I think it has Nick Cardy cover and for all of them. And the almost the entire Super Son Saga was drawn by Dick Dillon. There's at least one issue there when it was drawn by Kurt Swan as fill-in. I think that's the only one, and with various inkers. Okay, and Bob Haney, he wrote the entire saga. And Bob Haney from 1926 to 2004. He's an American comic book writer, known for his work at DC Comics. Co-created the Teen Titans, Metamorpho, Eclipso, and the Super Sons. He grew up in Philadelphia, reading popular newspaper strips such as Prince Vi and Flash Gordon, and listening to the great old-time radio dramas. You know, stuff like The Shadow and Lights Out and the Inner Sanctum, stuff like that. He attended Swarthmore College, and then during World War II, he served in the Navy. Go Navy! During the Battle of Okinawa. After the war, he got a master's degree from Columbia University. His writing career got going he published several novels under a variety of pseudonyms, and he entered the comics field in 1948 at Black Cat Comics. He wrote crime and war books for Fawcett and Harvey, etc. And after the Code killed many publishers, he started at DC, writing Sergeant Rock. In the 60s, he did scripts for animated cartoons, ones that were mostly based on DC properties, stuff that he already had experience writing for. So let's take a look here in this issue of World's Finest. Here we have splash page, Dick Dillon splash page, Vince Colletta inking. Again, as I've said many times, Vince Coletta's inking really kind of stiffened a lot of stuff. He did a lot of work, and I guess he was fairly fast, which is one of the reasons why he did so much work, because he was quick. But I think for a lot of artists, his inking, or at least his inking style, was a detriment to their pencils. But Vince Colletta did a lot of good work, and I've said many times before, I think his best work on his own was done on the romance comics, because his style worked so well for the romance comics. And here, this title of the story is Evil in Paradise. Here you get the ghostly images of Batman and Superman talking about their super sons. Of course, it's just to indicate the stuff, because the Super Sons here in this during the Super Son Saga, of course, there's Mrs. Kent and Mrs. Wayne. the mothers of Clark Jr. and Bruce Jr. But we never know who the mothers actually are. You never see their faces, so we don't know who they married. But this was taking place at that time, so it's in an alternate reality in which the Super Sons were taking place in the 1970s. As if, take a look at those pants that Batman Jr. is wearing. Definite 70s. And of course, they're tearing this poster of Batman and Superman, really indicating the generation gap. Here it is. Stay back. My son is doing the right thing. Law and order demands he dies. It's not quite that bad. Here we see this observation plane. This is flying over an island just off of the continent of Antarctica, and this area is covered in mists and clouds. This pilot flew low and saw when the clouds kind of lifted, he could see a jungle, and it was inhabited by these people who appeared to be Polynesian. And this island is ringed with volcanoes, and in this depression here, the people or the environment is kept tropically warm, and the people are living as their ancestors had for unknown thousands of years. And this is a lot like the Savage Land from Marvel Comics, except there's no dinosaurs. And here it is. The scientists found tropical valley found in Antarctica, yada yada yada. And here's this scientist, a sociologist, looking at the photographs and said, "No, he is planning a trip, an expedition down there. They're going to observe these people from a distance, which is the right way to do it." And so at this time there was a kind of quibble in sociology: humans, are they angels or apes? And and this guy seems to think that the humans are angels. In the natural state, they will be peaceful and all the good stuff that we see in humans while he's giving this presentation. And of course, Clark and Bruce Jr. are talking about that very subject here while they're observing it. And then this other sociologist, he pops up, and these guys have animosity towards each other, and said he disagrees to show that they'll be brutal and they'll be animalistic and yada yada yada. And the only way they have justice and stuff is by brutal force law, and their laws enforced brutally and stuff. And he's going to mount another expedition to observe and prove the exact opposite of this first one. So Clark Jr. and Bruce Jr., they get together and they talk with their fathers, because they're in opposition of the theory as well. And they talk to their fathers, and they decide they're going to join this expedition, since they can probably get financing from the Wayne Foundation, as long as these boys go. And they also think that men are, and Bruce Wayne, he's almost fascistic here, the way he sounds. It's only the brutal law and order, and without that, people will act like lunatics. And most sociologists today think it's somewhere in the middle, but they were very, very divided at this time. Here we see this where the environment where the one scientist has set up an experiment, having people in this experiment, but they are modern people, so it's doesn't work very well, living in a caveman environment, seeing how they work. But it said here it is pristine, but here they go, Superman Jr. is with the one they're in a position they're observing. They and S Jr. Sets up cameras and microphones and the like at super speed, so they're not observed. And this is the right way to do it. Try to do it as unobserved as possible. And of course, at this time, also the writers aren't taking into account. Didn't even think about it. These people have never had any contact with the outside world. If they come in direct contact with these people, they could bring all kinds of diseases, as we saw in reality a few years ago, when a missionary wanted to contact the natives on this island, thinking it was going to be great, and of course they killed him as soon as he got there, because the limited experience they'd had was that outsiders will bring disease. So, meanwhile, Batman Jr. is with. He goes around and he's with the other two, but they're going to put pressure on these people to make them act out of their character, unnatural characters, to make the brutality come out. See, and it has some nice visual storytelling. Dick Dillon, he does a good job. And the two groups are in opposition to each other. One is trying to observe, the other is trying to put undue outside pressure, still doing it from afar so that they aren't seen, but it's unnatural. They're screwing up the experiment for both sides. And they don't realize that, and of course the writers don't realize that this would probably not happen, at least not this way, just because that's not a good experiment. And of course, on both sides, they don't have, since one side is not influencing, is only doing this observationally, and the other is screwing up the experiment by intruding on without a control group. The experiment is actually bogus, but in the process, they do have contact. This Batman Jr. thinks he's, for whatever reason, he's discovered and having to fight. But this guy, he just cleans his clock. No problem. And then the scientist shoots him with a tranquilizer dart. And so now the Batman side is trying to put more pressure on with explosives and stuff, and causes problems in the very environment of them, almost costing the first scientist his life. Causes tremors, and a crevasse opens up, and the fellow is injured, while Superman Jr. is still endeavoring to find and save him, because he is injured. They've captured the one guy, got him in a cage, showing pictures and stuff, trying to setting things up, trying to make it look, see if his jealousy will come out and all this other stuff, and they're screwing up the experiment. Superman Jr. saves the guy. So the what I'll call the bad side then releases the fellow, and he's horrified that he wasn't jealous. He wasn't jealous, and he didn't attack him, and they quickly embraced his mate. So the guy runs up and attacks him physically, and in the process, the scientist gets knocked into the I don't want to say lava pit, or by the lava pit, and Batman Jr. pulls him out, but he's dead. And he says, "You're a murderer! You're a murderer!" See, Batman Jr. He's the one acting badly, almost not as bad as this guy. But he said he must face justice. He must be taken back to a court of law. Yada yada yada. I said, "Hold on here." Superman Jr. is right there and stops us. "We're outsiders and have no authority here." Then his own people must retaliate. So they think he must. Thinking he's going to have to face justice of his own people for murder. Well, they don't understand the concept of murder. We got some ads. Meanwhile, the explosions that they set off earlier have caused problems. They have tremors, and the I'll just call him a caveman, who had Batman Jr. had contact with, who they had imprisoned against as well. They had committed a crime, actually, and this fellow saves Batman Jr.'s life because he was about to fall into an opening crevasse. He falls to his own death, and then he's horrified. And but Batman Jr. and Superman Jr. saves everyone from the lava flow, and it's really screwed up the entire environment, spoiled the experiment, and crushed their culture, because now the cold is liable to come in, and these people are not set up for it. It's just it's a really good story. Don't get me wrong, it's some great artwork, but and of course it is just a story, but not realizing that the scientists wouldn't or shouldn't act like this. In this kind of environment, they should observe from a distance and not contact them directly, because they've never had contact. It will have adverse effects on their culture, as well as potentially killing them all. So that's all. From spreading disease. That's all I've got for this issue of World's Finest, the Saga of the Super Sons. A lot of fun. I really enjoy this. And thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. And remember, comics are art.